Hi again, Mark here from talkingbass.net. This week I'm going to be looking at a really simple chord that's used in a lot of styles and that can really add something extra to your bass playing, and that's the power chord. Remember, the lesson material for this and every video can be downloaded over at talkingbass.net. Just follow the link in the info below. In the lesson map over there, you'll find over 100 different video lessons, all systemized and categorized for ease of navigation. And if you sign up for free, you'll gain access to the members area where you'll find a whole load of extra practice resources and features. So go check it out. So let's have a look at the basics of the power chord. Now, the power chord is simply a two-note chord, so you could also call that a dyad or a double stop, and it's simply made up of a root note and a perfect fifth. So, to make a power chord, we just choose a root note, so let's say C there, third fret of the A string, and then we find a perfect fifth interval. Now, if you're unsure of a perfect fifth interval, all you have to do is work up 5 notes of the major scale. So, if we're on a C, we use the C major scale, so you should all know a C major scale, so C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. We just work up 5 notes of that, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and there we have a G. So C to G is a fifth, a perfect fifth, and it's those 2 notes, the root and the fifth, that we use for the power chord. So there we have the C, third fret of the A string, and the G, fifth fret of the D string. So for the chord, we're going to use the first finger there, the index finger, for the C, and then the fourth finger, the pinky, for the G, and you just play them both together. And here presto, that's a power chord. In terms of the picking hand, there are several different ways to play this. So you could play with the first and second finger, so just, the first finger plucking the A string and the second finger plucking the D string, so it's just like plucking a single string, but you're just using both fingers together there, and that means that you can keep the thumb there on the E string to mute, and it's quite easy that way. Or you could use the thumb and the first finger, like that, or you could strum, with the fingernails. There's loads and loads of different ways to play it, but for now, just for the sake of this chord down here, we'll just play with the first and the second finger there. Okay? In terms of the fretboard shape, the root fifth pattern is one of the most important ones in music for bass players especially. So it's really worth getting that shape under your fingers, and it's really easy to see. We've got the root note and we just move up 2 frets and then to the next string, so like a little L there. So just get used to that pattern, and then all you have to do is move it around. Just get used to moving that shape around. The good thing about a power chord, as most rock guitarists know, is that you can just move the thing around and just make up riffs with it. You just you can just move that thing around. Okay? So just try for a while, before trying to get into any kind of theory things or anything like that. Just move that chord around and just get used to that pattern, and just get used to holding the first and the fourth fingers down. Just get used to that. So you can hear that it has a really bare, open sound that sounds, powerful, just like the name suggests. We don't have the third in there to give it a major or a minor quality. So, like a C major chord, for instance, there's a major third in there and it sounds happy. And then, if it was a minor, we'd have the minor third in there. It sounds sad. But with the perfect fifth interval, that bare fifth, there's no major or minor quality. So it's not happy or sad, it's just powerful. Now, because of this neutral sound, rock guitarists use power chords all the time to play riffs. Put some distortion on a guitar and start playing power chords, and it's a quick and easy way to get started. You can just move the power chord around where you want to, and hey presto, you've got some riffs. And there are so many songs that are built from these power chords. Probably the most famous or infamous rock riff of all time, "Smoke on the Water" by Deep Purple, is made completely of power chords. All power chords in there. Now on bass, we're less likely to be playing chords because our job is to hold down the bottom end, and chords can generally get muddy down here in this lower register down there. But the great thing about power chords is that because that perfect fifth is a wider interval than the third, and because we've only got 2 notes to play with, and also because the fifth is kind of bolstering the overtone series, you know, there's things like that come into play. But because of that, it's a lot easier to play these power chords down here and sound okay, you know, they sound passable. If I was to play, let's say, an A power chord, that's okay. But if I was to play an A major chord, you can hear that's just really muddy. And that's not because of that chord necessarily, you know, just being a muddy chord. If I was to play the A major just 1 octave higher, that sounds a lot more lush and, you know, you can hear it's a major chord. Put it down here, you know, it just sounds awful. But playing an A power chord, there or there, you know, it's a lot more resonant and a lot more usable. So, how can we use these power chords in a bass line? How do we apply them? Well, one good use is for just beefing up a held note, okay? Just something that needs a bit of impact. And this could be at the end of a section, you know, like a chorus or something like that, a verse, or at any bass line, or just, you know, for something different in a certain section of a song. So let's say that we're playing in A and we've got a bass line, a rock bass line pedaling, and then to C, and then let's say we're going to hold on a D and then on an E, okay? So imagine the band's all there, bang, you know, guitar, on the D, on the E, you know, everything's there. We want lots of impact on it. Well, instead of just holding our little, you know, bass note there, we could play a power chord, okay? So that would sound like this. C, here it comes. And then we're back in, okay? So we're just getting a fatter, fuller sound by using those power chords there, okay? And it'll, you know, bolster the guitar there because the guitar is probably doing something like that, you know? So that's one good way of using them, you know, for emphasis and for more impact. And if you want to hear some examples of that, just listen to any of Billy Sheehan's work with Mr. Big or Winery Dogs, anything like that. He uses these chords loads, you know, and he always uses them in those sections. You know, if there's something holding, he'll stick in a power chord. Another use might be just to get a really heavy sound out of your bass, you know, in a style like, you know, the heavier metal styles like death metal, things like that, where you just want a really big sound. So, you know, on a slow riff, a big slow, you know, heavy riff, you can get a sound like this. You know, it's got that big chiming kind of sound. Now, you can also use power chords in a little bit more of a creative way by playing them a little higher on the neck and using them to outline certain chord tones that are not based on the root notes. So, don't worry about the theory behind that at all. All it means is that we're moving that shape around while there's another note below, which might be an open string or something like that. Now, the perfect example of this is the song Force 10 by Rush. And in that, Geddy Lee plays an open A string pedal, and over the top of that he uses a C power chord and a D power chord alternating. And what that actually gets us, because think about it, we're playing an open A string, that's the root note of the chord there in effect, but we're playing a C power chord and a D power chord, and that gives us a kind of A minor 7 to A sus or D over A kind of sound. So that sounds like this. Okay, so that's a C power chord and a D power chord over an open A. Now, if you want to get more into strumming techniques, then the song School Days by Stanley Clarke uses power chords exclusively in a more guitaristic fashion like this. Okay, so those kind of strumming techniques, I'm going to be covering those in an upcoming lesson, so I won't go too far into that, but if you're interested in that kind of thing, then keep an eye out for the lesson that's coming up very soon. So let's just get back to basics and just look at a really simple riff just to get your fingers moving with these power chords and to show you how you can use them. So this riff is just really simple and sounds like this. Okay, and you can just go round and round on that. So very simple rhythm, just so you can get used to moving the chord around, okay? Using a pretty rocky kind of root movement there. So, all we've got is an E power chord. So that's the E there and the B. So that's 7th fret of the A string and the 9th fret of the D string. And once again, that's with the 1st and the 4th finger. Then we move up to the G power chord. So this is with the 5th fret of the D string and the 7th fret of the G string. Again with the 1st and 4th finger. Then we move up to the A power chord. So we just move that whole thing up 2 frets. So there's the A power chord. That's the 7th fret of the D string and the 9th fret of the G string. So then we just move back down to the G power chord. So 5th fret of the D string and 7th fret of the G string. So far we have okay, and that's for 2 beats each really. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Very, very simple. Then the second half of the riff works up again. Same thing, E power chord, G power chord, A power chord, then down to the D power chord. So that's the 5th fret of the A string and the 7th fret of the D string. So altogether the riff sounds like this. So there's no fancy rhythms to worry about, you know, no syncopation, anything like that, just, you know, 2 beats each, just working up and down, okay? So just try playing round and round on that riff, and if you have any problems getting that under your fingers, remember you can download the sheet music and tablature from talkingbass.net, just follow the link below. So we'll just try that one more time, so remember 2 beats each, so I'll just count you in. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, one little technical thing to bear in mind is in the fretting hand. When you get above a certain fret, you'll probably want to switch round from the 1st and 4th fingers down to the 1st and 3rd fingers, okay? And this all depends on the size of your hands, okay? Now, for the E there that we've just been playing, for me there it feels comfortable with the 1st and 4th finger, but I could play it with the 1st and 3rd finger. I mean, you could use 1st and 3rd finger everywhere, but as you get further down, the stretch is a little bit, you know, bigger, and your 3rd finger is generally not going to sit there as well. But for me, once I get up to about the F sharp there, you know, the 9th fret, I'd be more likely to move to the 1st and 3rd finger there, okay? So I've got the E there, 1st and 4th finger, F, 1st and 4th finger, and then I'd probably switch the 1st and 3rd finger, and then as I move up here, you can see it's all 1st and 3rd finger, okay? So if you just want to measure that and see what, you know, where that change would come, just work up from an open string. So there's an A, B flat, B, C, just work up 1st and 4th finger, just work up 1 fret at a time. Then once you get up to the F sharp, that's probably roughly around the place where you'd want to change. If your hands are a little bit smaller, it might be a little bit higher or lower depending on, you know, just what feels comfortable. Again, there's no rules for this, you know, it's just whatever feels comfortable to you. You might feel fine using 1st and 4th finger everywhere, or vice versa. But, you know, at some point, you probably will want to change. So the power chord is a pretty useful chord just as it is, but we can actually beef it up a little by adding another note in there. And there are 2 different ways of doing this. So let's say that we're playing a power chord on a root note of E. Okay, so we've got it there, 7th fret of the A string and 9th fret of the D string. Now what we can do to beef that up a little and give it a much bigger sound is put the octave of the E in there at the 9th fret of the G string. So instead of that, we get this. So we've got E, B, E. So 7th fret of the A string, 9th fret of the D string, and 9th fret of the G string. This is a little tougher to play, which is why I didn't introduce it earlier. You want to get used to the power chord on its own first, and then just try putting this octave in there. And the tough part about it is the fact that you've got to bar this pinky, the 4th finger there. So you've got to hold down with the 1st finger, and I kind of bar across with the 1st finger. I'm not too sure, but that might be helping a little bit with the, you know, the pressure of putting this down. And then you want to just push down, and don't think that you're just pushing with the 4th finger. It's not necessarily about the finger strength. It's actually, you know, this part of the hand that you're kind of clenching with. So, you know, you want to try holding down that 4th finger, just barring it across. And this is really good for other parts of your playing as well, because, you know, that pattern is a very, very popular pattern. You know, you'll get it in all different styles. You know, you get it in a lot of soul and Motown things, all the Jameson kind of bass lines, they use this a lot. And it's, you know, it's just a really, really handy pattern to know. And, you know, I generally have my hand kind of in that position no matter where I am, you know, so that I could always grab the octave or the 5th. So that's the extended E power chord. And so you just want to try moving that around a little. And you can hear that it's, you know, a little bit more powerful. So that extended power chord is good for chords with a root note on the E or the A string. So, you know, E there or B there, something like that. But if we have a root note on the D string, like this A power chord there, so that's 7th fret of the D string and 9th fret of the G string, we can't put an octave on there, not with a 4-string bass anyway. If you've got a 5 or a 6, then obviously things change. But if we've got that A there, we've run out of strings. But what we can do is take that 5th up there, the E, and double that an octave lower. So then what we have is this. So there we have the E, 7th fret of the A string, A, 7th fret of the D string, and the E, 9th fret of the G string. So that's again an A power chord, but we've now got the 5th on the bottom. So it's maybe not as effective as the, you know, the original one that we had a look at, because we've now got that 5th under there. So it kind of changes the sound of it a little. But, you know, if you're wanting a bigger sound and you're wanting to extend it a little and have 3 notes in there, then, you know, that is an alternative way of playing it. Now let's try the same riff that we just played in E. That same riff, but this time we'll use 3-note power chords, okay? So, we begin with an E. So, this time we have the E, the B, and the E. So 7th fret A, 7th fret A string, 9th fret D string, 9th fret G string. Okay, so there's that E power chord. Then originally we moved up to a G power chord there, but this time we're going to put that 5th on the bottom there. So now we have the D, 5th fret of the A string, G, 5th fret of the D string, and the D, 7th fret of the G string. So there's the G power chord. Then we move that whole pattern up 2 frets to the A power chord. So that's what we just had a look at. So we've got E, A, E. So 7th fret of the A string, 7th fret of the D string, and 9th fret of the G string. And then we come back down to the G. So that first part. Back to the E, and then we play the same thing again, but this time after we get up to the A, we come down to the D. Okay, so exactly the same as the riff that we just played. So if you've got that riff under your fingers, this should be no problem. So whole thing. Okay, so that's that same riff, just using 3-note power chords. So that's just a few examples of some power chords. You want to try moving them around and just getting used to the sound of them. Remember, all the examples from this lesson are available to download in sheet music and tab over at talkingbass.net. Just follow the link in the info below. Okay, I'll see you later.